It's Chris, Liege Games. Top 10, hotness, what's trending, what do you need to know, why do you need to know about them, what's going on, and a little bit of everything rambling sprinkled in between. Hope you liked the 1-year anniversary surprise over the weekend. I don't really know how many people looked at it. I haven't even looked at the view count right now. It was fun to do. It was something out there, something completely different. I've never seen anyone else do anything like it. So I thought I would just try something completely different. So hopefully slightly entertaining to you. Apart from that, I don't know. I actually, you know what? Apart from that, thank you to all the Patreon people. Sign up if you want to see the exclusive video for my recommendations for this upcoming week of what's launching and what is also, sort of going on right now from a Kickstarter standpoint side of things. My locks or my concerns. And then also, later this week, I'm going to be putting out a special video. And it's going to be a top 10 convention video, right? Oh, right. It's not going to be a conventional top 10 convention video. You see all the other ones coming out right now that are like, top 10 games to get at Essen. Top 10 games I'm excited about at Gen Con. Top 10 whatever's at Origins that's left over. You know what I mean. But I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, you know what? I'm feeding into the hype elsewhere. And I feel like I need to do my part as well from the anti-hype side of things to say, okay, you know what? It's nice that you can buy all those games and then sell 3/4 of them about, a month later on Board Game Geek or Facebook when you realize you don't like them. But let's try and rein it in just a little bit. And let's talk about games that maybe you should be buying instead right now that are going to be much better, more suited to you, or, well, with a little bit of taste and smattering thrown in all across the board. So that's going to be coming out later this week. So that if that interests you, tune in, subscribe, help me get to 5K by the end of the year. So we did about 3,600 in my first year, which is amazing, freaking fantastic. Let's just keep on going. Let's just keep on going, see how high we can get this train ride going. So apart from that, thank you again, and let's do this. Look, I didn't talk about it in the roundup. One or two of you asked. This is Tournament Fishing, the deck building game. It's on Kickstarter right now. It's got a whole lot of controversy around it from the guy from the Gaming Goat. And it's on the hotness because people are continuing to clamor and to talk and to debate and to argue of, the appearance of an image of a frog and who says it's and what's it mean it's and don'ts it's. I'm not getting into that. I'm not. There are better people out there more eloquently and more succinctly talking about the nuances. Oh, there's a pro and a con from this situation, but it's getting a lot of clicks. Therefore, it's on the hotness from that side of things. We'll talk about some of the ramifications, though, down the line with something else on the hotness, though, in a minute. But that's why it's at the top of the hotness right now, because that's what Board Game Geek hotness really is, folks. It's clicks, it's views, it's comments. There you go. Next up is Seven Wonders Architects. And when I originally heard that this was announced, I was like, oh, sweet, another Seven Wonders expansion. Just what Seven Wonders needs, right? No, actually, this is a 2 to 7 player game, which takes a completely different spin on the Seven Wonders mechanic. And it's completely different. It's a standalone game. All we know is that each person is going to be building an uncompleted wonder, and you're going to be gathering the resources, developing your military, and developing your technology in order to do so the most efficiently, not necessarily the fastest. So I'm not sure if it reminds me a little bit more of the Stonemaier game, Tapestry in that sense. Clearly it's going to have some Seven Wonders elements to it, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to have a game that scales 2 to 7. There's got to be a lot of simultaneous actions and mitigation and play. Otherwise, it's just never going to be feasible. And so, again, that's going to be the question mark. All we know from the release side of things is sometime in Q4. But again, because it's got the name brand recognition and the author recognition with Bauza, it's going to be making waves. So that's why it's number 2 on the hotness right now this week. Next up is Golem. And this is the big sort of Euro-style worker placement game that is getting or making the most waves prior to the previously mentioned conventions that I discussed. Now, it's not exactly like typical worker placement. I'm not even sure I can actually say it's worker placement. It's more of an engine building, as they say. And you're going to be having 5 different phases to use your golem to collect these resources and manage and mitigate and score points. And this is why the other recognition and it's making waves is because it's by the same team that did Grand Austria Hotel as well as Lorenzo. Il Magnifico. I'm probably mispronouncing that. You know I'm going to mispronounce something in this video. Hopefully that was the only thing. But it's the same team that did those 2 games, expanding it into this realm, in the Golem in Prague, the 16th century, something like that. They actually have it up over here on the website of Cranial Creations. You can take out a little bit more of the description, but nothing else, more distinct than that. Just generic product information and a sales sheet. No place to buy it or anything from that side of things yet. So again, it's probably going to be a convention release, and so we'll see what sort of waves it makes and how it compares to those other games, which are relatively well thought of from a pedigree side of things in the first place. Now, if you go over to the Board Game Geek page here, you can see how each of the rounds are constructed. There's going to be 7 different phases that you're going to be dealing with, and each of these actions that you're going to be taking in the 3rd phase right here, there are 5 different options that you're going to be choosing from. And so again, if you're liking that style of game, the pedigree is there. It's just going to be about the execution. And there's some pictures on Board Game Geek you can see already of sort of what it's going to look like in anticipation. So, I mean, there you go. But that is why Golem is on the Hotness. Now, as with the usual cycle, the shut up and sit down effect is in full effect. Blitzkrieg, in case you are not familiar with what this game is, this is a 1 to 2 player war-esque game that came out a couple years ago. I believe they're making a combined edition that includes the Nippon, Japanese army expansion. And I believe Shut Up and Sit Down just reviewed this as well as another game later on the Hotness this past week and sort of gave them their blessing. And I mean, it's just a nice game. It's actually originally Kickstarter crowdfunded, and with the exclusive being these tiny little miniatures that go along with them, which are completely superfluous and unnecessary. But basically, you're simulating a war game with chits that you're just drawing from a bag randomly and then choosing how you use them to deploy them onto the various battlefields, which are little token holding places. Here you can see a sample setup of what the game board actually looks like. I'll blow it up here so you can get a little better picture. But you're basically just placing in one of these different 5 areas, or theaters as they are called, and it moves this red cube one way or the other depending on the number in the upper left hand corner on the allies or the axis. And then depending on some of these other tokens, some of the heroes, some of the people, the personnel, but also a few of the other icons that will go along, especially like the yellow ones, will have special abilities. And you have a limited number of special tiles that you're going to be able to get from another special bag. And again, the combined expansion is just going to have the Japanese expansion, or the Nippon expansion, as it's called, the Japanese access side of things, to include all in one. So I actually had it. I've played it several times. I can speak from firsthand experience. It's a very, very solid game. Now, the reason I say that and use that specific terminology and phrasing is because my wife just didn't really like it. I enjoyed it. It's a nice sort of puzzle. It's a nice sort of puzzle, though, in a way as well, because you can see here that you're doing and you're filling up by rows. And so when you are the last person to fill in a row, you get these other victory points, which move things even further up here on the track. But like I said, she just didn't like it. My wife just was not a fan of it in general. Like, she did not find it enjoyable. And as mainly a 2-player game, if she's not going to play it with me, then it's not really probably going to stay in my collection. So I ended up trading it away just from that side of things. So anyway, that's why Blitzkrieg, exclamation point, is on the Hotness now. Next one up is Dungeons of Infinity. I hate how it cuts off the bottom here, but it's on Kickstarter. It's about $130,000, $140,000 raised so far. It is the epitome of basically a quick, easy overhead setup, randomized dungeon crawler, and everything that goes along with that, from the generic types of characters to the weapons to everything. And I don't say that in a bad way. I don't say generic as that. I say generic as in you can get this to the table really quickly with anyone who's never played something like this before. And I believe the all-in for the base game as well as the new expansion is about $99, which again, for a dungeon crawler that has some legs to stand on from what I've read, again, if you like that sort of chaos progression, campaign, but not really campaign sort of leveling, this has it. And this is something completely different, and it's more affordable, and it's not full of chunks of gray miniature plastic that you're going to have to deal with 7 boxes of. So if you're looking for something on the lighter side of things, or if you're looking for an intro game into that genre to see if you like it without having to plunge like $300 for, essentially a full set of a game nowadays, this is a great entry point. And so I highly suggest that you check it out. But that's why it's on the Hotness as well. The one thing you need to know, though, is on the Kickstarter campaign is that, I mean, this new game is a 2.0 version of it. So you're getting a better version than the versions out there in several different ways that I'm not going to go into, but that are worth checking out on the Kickstarter page in the first place, in case you're one of those people like me that sometimes likes to trade or try and trade while the campaign is going on and then get the expansion. So you just need to be aware of it from that side of things, whether or not it'd be worth it from that way of buying it new versus getting somebody's old copy that has some slight differences as well. But Dungeons of Infinity, that's why it's on the Hotness. Now, next up, 11, I need a mea culpa because I screwed this up. I completely I put out my review, my 5 thoughts, 5 things you should know about the campaign. I totally forgot to cover it when it launched last week. So I'm going to spend a little extra time on them on this roundup this coming week, just to highlight them and as well cover some of the things that they've unlocked, because I think it's drastically changed the value or the perceived value of the game on the GameFound campaign currently. But that's also why it's on the Hotness. Portal Games is putting out a very solid product in a very niche market environment from an economic strategy game, and it's doing something different. It's a well-established company taking on a sports theme, and we don't see sports themes a lot. We see them, frankly speaking, very, very seldomly across the board, no matter what mechanisms, what genre, anything in this hobby. You just don't see a ton of them. The only thing you really see them on from that side of things is usually dexterity with any consistency. There's other soccer games, football games out there, but this one is thought to be a little bit different because, again, a lot of those others focus on the match themselves, mitigating the players, moving the players around, trying to score goals, trying to win the match. But this is more of the overview. This is not only the match, but it's more about the match. It's more about the player management, the team management, the larger organization management aspect. So you're doing more from a top-down view rather than the minutia close by. So if that's of interest to you, I highly recommend that you check it out, or check out my video so that you can get a little bit more depth of insight of things that you should know about whether or not it's right for you. So 11, that's why it's on the Hotness. So next up, we have Regicide. So, I mean, this is the one I was alluding to earlier. Again, the gaming goat with the whole controversy around tournament fishing. Regicide has been sold out. It was on the Hotness. It was at the top of the Hotness when I did the last news video. And it's still on the Hotness, but it's still sold out. But now the interesting thing is Badgers from Mars, the designing group who was getting it distributed through the gaming goat, they have cut ties with the gaming goat because of the statements made. And so that brings into question what's going to happen with the further print copies of Regicide from that aspect of things. So, I mean, if I can get it, I'm probably going to get it at some point, but it's just, that's why it's still getting the clicks, because it's still very well thought of as a game, but that association now has been severed, and that's what you need to know, and that's why it's continued to be on the Hotness just from that side of things. Now, the next one, this is Caesar, exclamation point, just like Blitzkrieg, exclamation point, also on the Hotness because shut up and sit down effect. Now, you might ask yourself, 2 games with exclamation points at the end? What are the odds? Well, it's by the same designer, so that's what they're going with, and it's very similar to Blitzkrieg in that same sense, in that you are taking these resources and replenishing areas and trying to control them and earn the most victories that you can. And so, again, it's a very similar concept with a very, very different theme. And that's why it's on the Hotness. That's why it's getting the rub right now from Shut Up and Sit Down. But this is the 2021 release as opposed to a couple years ago with Blitzkrieg. Next up, we have Altenor Secrets, which is launching on Kickstarter this week. I'm assuming it's just because people are clicking on it more, trying to find out a whole lot more information. It has this interesting mechanism that you can see sort of here. I'll blow it up again a little bit so you can see again these tracks that are going to be rotating and that you're going to be trying to use to score and earn victory points and defeat the other team that you're going up against. So it's going to be really interesting to see what this campaign looks like. Now, obviously, they're miniature based, so again, that's going to affect the price point. But these rings have a total of 8 different areas you're going to be trying to utilize to win the game, essentially. You're each going to be going up against each other, alternating turns, playing one character at a time, activating them, taking their regular but also free actions that are going to be available to you. And the interesting thing, I'm going to wonder how this is balanced, is it strikes you when you say that, sort of alternating, as a 2-player game, but this is actually a 2 to 4-player game, which makes me wonder, is it a 1 versus 1 and a 2 versus 2, or can you actually have a well-balanced game that's going to be a free-for-all 1v1v1, or 1 versus 1 versus 1 versus 1? And I don't know based on the description. Now, they reached out to me email-wise week and a half ago, and I haven't heard back yet. So, because they were interested in sending me something, and I just haven't heard anything. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting. I'm going to be watching it when it launches and trying to figure out how these mechanisms work, what I need to know about them, and whether or not it's a game for me. So it'll definitely be on the roundup later this week. If you're interested, I'll be touching base on it more just from that side of things. But that's why it's on the Hotness right now. Next up, we have Furnace. Recently released, this engine building sort of economic game is starting to make a little bit of a wave. Now, with this Euro-style game, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be placing out markers accordingly on these cards at the beginning of the round in order to not really bid on them, but sort of bid on them in a different way. And you'll notice there are two things that are common with this, or two rules that you have to follow when you're putting these down. And this is the main mechanism of the game, is you'll notice that there are numbers 1 through 4. And you'll notice that on each card, you can have one of a number, and you can only have one of the same color. And so you'll see that you have to be able to figure out how you want to build your engine, essentially, based on the order of your tiles that you're placing. And they're going to go in number order then. And so you're going to go across and you're going to figure out how you want to do things in that way. They also have apparently some asymmetric, capitalistic cards that they say that will change things up at the beginning of the game. You can see a little bit of what this may entail just from that side of things. But that's the basic gist. You do this 4 times, and that's the game. And so it's getting more clicks. It's getting sort of the hot release prior to the cons. I'm sure you'll see it pop up on some con lists. But that's why it's on the Hotness right now. Now, last up, bonus on the Hotness, is Bitoku. Bitoku? I don't know. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I'm mispronouncing it. It's a completely different pronunciation than what I would ever usually say. This is sort of a worker placement game with dice. Now, there's not a whole lot of information out there from that side of things, but the gist of it is you have yokai, which are these spirits that are going to help you with the hand management aspect of things, as well as other kodama and other helpers along the way that are going to help you succeed in your goal. Now, it seems to be a very interesting concept in the sense that you're trying to become the most transcendent spirit, and you're going to be using 2 aspects, both the cards and the dice that I have sort of alluded to. The yokai are these cards that you're going to be placing at the right time at certain places to gather resources to build your engine, and then the dice are your spirit guardians, your yokai guardians, they say, that you're going to be building in several areas in order to maximize your production in the first place. The last 2 elements that they say, that they mention in the description, is that you are going to have a personal area as well. That is going to be, now they say, another area you can do things at. Now, whether or not that's going to be asymmetric compared to the other players, it's not clear. But there are also going to be pilgrims that are going to be aiding you along their journey, along your way, to help you succeed. That's about all we know. But it's an interesting concept. The artwork is beautiful. Not a whole lot of other information. But, I mean, I'm assuming it's one of these convention releases that's sort of flying under the radar right now. So I'm going to put it on your radar first. That's it. Short news week. Got really nothing else for you. Nothing else on the periphery. Plenty of other tidbits, but not anything really news and noteworthy. So that's just the top 10 Hotness games you need to know about that are in the upcoming week and why they're on there. So I also have another video I'm maybe going to try and get out this week. Debate between games and money, part 3. But I also have a video that I've been sort of holding on to that maybe needs a little bit of refreshing and a little bit of a sort of asterisk update. Talking about some campaigns that have recently run into trouble. Not from this video, but from several we've covered elsewhere in the past, and some updates on them and some more thoughts on that side of things. So that one I might get out this week as well. And a review or 2. Hopefully. But that's it. That's what you need to know. As always, let me know how your weekend was. Let me know what you're up to. Hopefully it was great. Hopefully you have a great day today. Stay classy. I'll see you around.